Hey, I'm Scott Shea, author of the book All the Leaves Are Brown: How the Mamas and the Papas Came Together and Broke Apart, and a music historian, here to talk a little bit of a couple of late rock legends, Brian Wilson and Sly Stone with Jim Masters. It's all coming up on the Jim Masters Show.
Hey, Scott, great intro.
Hey, Jim, thanks. I love your intro as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. How have you been? We've chatted before when we were celebrating the Mamas and the Papas. On this episode, as you so eloquently said, we're going to be celebrating Sly Stone, the incomparable Sly Stone, American musician and singer, songwriter extraordinaire, and well missed. We just lost him recently. And of course, Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, iconic singer, songwriter, musician, performer extraordinaire. We're going to be celebrating these two giants here. Scott is a music historian and a celebrated author as well. Scott, welcome back to the show.
Jim, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure is all mine. Sad to lose, the legends and people that we've revered and admired all these years. Let's start with Sly. Obviously, Sly Stone was a real figure that was a powerhouse in the music industry. Of course, Sylvester Stewart, his birth name, born in 1943, just past June of 2025. And an extraordinary, exemplary American musician and songwriter, record producer, the frontman of Sly and the Family Stone. He played a critical role in the development of psychedelic soul and funk, pioneering fusion, soul, and rock and psychedelia and gospel in the 60s and 70s and so much more. Tell us about your thoughts on the passing of Sly Stone and also his extraordinary contributions to the music industry, the uniqueness of his personality, which of course really was second to none. He was absolutely amazing. Just a great performer, entertainer with a unique look, a unique sound. Of course, we remember the appearances on Mike Douglas. There he is with Richard Pryor and that feisty conversation with Muhammad Ali. Tell us about, as a music historian, your thoughts on Sly Stone.
He was, one of a kind, really, truly unclassifiable, and but so influential at the same time. He came up in the '50s in San Francisco, in the rock scene, the burgeoning rock and roll scene. Was a lover of that music. Sang in a gospel group with his sister and brother, maybe two sisters and brothers. I think his one sister played the piano, but incredibly gifted musically. Got his hands in all business of the music industry over time. Really started off singing like doo-wop and rhythm and blues. Was in an interracial group called the Viscanes in the late '50s and early '60s, and they cut a couple records. And he really got into record producing and songwriting, and had a couple songs made or recorded that he had written early on, and just grew. He just loved creating music. And then he also got involved in playing music. He was a disc jockey for KSOL in San Francisco or Oakland, somewhere around that area, and was incredibly popular. He was on that station for maybe 4 or 5 years, even when Sly and the Family Stone got signed to Epic and started recording. He was broadcasting that. In fact, I have a sound check of his from that time period. It's really interesting and neat to listen to a guy really before he's famous, and really kind of went whether it was contrived or real. I imagine it was probably a little bit of both. Really kind of kooky and crazy, and he really wore his personality on his sleeve when he performed, and you can just see it all over. You see it in the Woodstock film, like those clips you showed of him on the Mike Douglas show, or I think he was also on with Dick Cavett, and but just an all around brilliant performer. And these guys, they're pushing 80 now if they're not octogenarians, and pretty soon we're going to be out of them because they're not getting any younger, and time is passing by, and it's the one thing we all have in common, right?
Yes, the clock waits for nobody. It keeps advancing, it keeps going forward, whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
This is a more recent picture of Sly in the later years. He really was somebody who, again, the music made you feel good. You know what I mean? Especially of that.
Oh yeah.
It just really made you feel good. And he was such a unique personality on so many different levels. And then, of course, the creation of Sly and the Family Stone, the iconic group, performing for such a long time as well. What's really amazing, too, when you take a look at his extraordinary background, AllMusic stated that James Brown may have invented funk, but Sly Stone perfected it. He really did that funk sound that was so prevalent, especially at that time, 60s and the 70s. It really also paved the way for other artists to incorporate that sound into the music, right?
Yeah, he really did. I was just about to interject that because one person he profoundly influenced was a guy named Norman Whitfield over in Detroit, Michigan. He at the time was the producer of and chief songwriter for the Temptations, and songs like "Psychedelic Shack" and "War," which the Temptations did the original version of. Then when Starr had the hit with it, but "Ball of Confusion" and even "Just My Imagination," "Running Away with Me," just all these songs that Sly really influenced him, that the direction he took with the band, and the band in turn was influenced by Sly. And that's pretty for a guy like Sly Stone. That had to be quite an honor. Even I don't even know what his mental state was by that time. They were really elbow deep into the drugs, but that must have been a real honor for a group like the Temptations to be influenced by him. And I know in the '70s, in the mid '70s, he even wrote a song that appeared on one of their albums. They couldn't, for copyright reasons or legal reasons, they couldn't put his name on it. But I think it's called "Up the River Without a Paddle" or something. He influenced not only them, but George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars and Bootsy Collins. And I mean, Bootsy Collins almost seems like a carbon copy of Sly Stone. But so many black artists, not just black artists, but white artists too, in the '70s and beyond, were greatly influenced by Sly Stone.
Absolutely. Did you have their music, Sly and the Family Stone, in your collection over the years too?
Oh yeah, I think I have almost all of their albums. There might
All of
be
it, yeah.
a couple of later ones that I haven't. But when you're a lover of the music of the '60s like I am, you got to have Sly Stone, Sly and the Family Stone in your collection.
It's really amazing when you think about it too. When you take a look at his background, the amount of music output, really extraordinary over the years. He was born in Denton, Texas, and raised in the Bay Area in Northern California, in Viejo. And he actually mastered several musical instruments. He could play quite a few of them at an early age too, and did gospel music as a child with his siblings, who were the future bandmates as well. And then he, like you say, he got involved in working with a record producer for Autumn Records, the disc jockeying in San Francisco for KDIA. And in '66, Sly and his brother Freddie joined the bands together to form Sly and the Family Stone. It's hard to believe it was back in 1966.
Yeah.
And it was a racially integrated mixed gender act, which was one of the first of its kind. So revolutionary and innovative as well. And all the great songs you can think about over the years too. Dance to the Music, Everyday People, uh, Thank You, I Want to Take You Higher, Family Affair, of course, which you still hear
Hmm.
that on the radio too. If You Want Me to Stay, and many acclaimed albums too, like Stand in 1969. There's a Riot Going On in 71 and Fresh in 73, and on and on and on. Of course, nothing perfect in life, very pressure filled industry and career. And, he went in and out of various different things in his life, the ups and downs of living and being a musician and a performer. Takes its toll here and there. But, he's also very open and authentic about that through the years as well, right?
Yeah, and he put a lot of pressure on himself, I would imagine too. I mean, he just even from the beginning of his career, he had his hand in everything, singing, song. I think he even produced the Beau Brummels, um, who had a couple big hits in the mid '60s on Autumn Records. So, um, yeah, it's just the pressures are insurmountable when you hit that level. Just to keep going, and I mean, you have to put out 3 or 4 singles a year. The record companies wanted you to put at least one record out, preferably two. And not only that, but you're competing against guys like James Brown, the Temptations, everybody at Motown on the R&B side. But then when you're crossing over and having all those pop hits, now you're competing with the likes of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all these groups, and it's just you had to be fresh and innovative, and Sly certainly was. But at some point, it takes a toll, and I know Sly really got into some dark places in the '70s, weapons and drugs and things like that. That really almost eventually forced him into seclusion. There was a long period of time where he was never even heard from. And even when he did come out of seclusion, and you were able to get tickets to go see him live, it's like going to see Morrissey. There's a chance that you might not get through the entire show, or you might not show up. Tell his band, "Hey, I got to go backstage for a second," and then he never appears. He never reappears. So, um, but it's the rock and roll element. There's something. I mean, I'm sure it's annoying to everybody at the time, and especially people who paid for it. But it is such a rock and roll thing, and Sly really embodied that.
He really did. There was just something about his sound. And, he had a playful side to him, too. We talk about the interviews on television, like Douglas. And so there's that really cool one that we just watched recently where he's trying to be the go between a guest and Mike as well with Muhammad Ali. I don't know if you ever saw that on the Mike Douglas show. I think you can see it on the internet, YouTube, what have you. But it's a really cool thing. And then Muhammad Ali directs his attention to Sly, and they're going back and forth. And Sly was quite sly. He was smooth about it, trying to be sort of a mediator. And I thought it was really cool to
And there's
see that.
probably a lot of performance in that too. Like, because I mean, who was a bigger showman than Muhammad Ali? And he'd love to go on these talk shows
Oh,
and
sure.
just get everybody riled up and make it look like he was going to pull off Howard Cosell's
You're
toupee or
right.
something. So it was just it was really a great time for all that stuff, for talk shows and for music. It's just fun to even go back and look at it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and like you say, the amount of music that he was responsible for is incredible. And, these people that we're talking about, a Sly Stone, a Brian Wilson, they really were ahead of their time. And unfortunately, Sly passed away just recently at the age of 82 in Los Angeles. But, the music and the legacy will live on as well. And he also toured or collaborated with such artists as Parliament Funkadelic Bobby Womack and Jesse
Hmm.
Johnson. And in '93, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the group. And he took part in a Sly and Family Stone tribute at the 2006 Grammy Awards, first live performance since 1987. He also released an autobiography. Some people might not realize
Right.
that back in 2023 as well. And that's Thank You. Did you get a chance to read through his as a writer and author yourself? Did you see his autobiography?
I haven't, I'd like to. I think it came out right at the same time as my book. And I was like, oh, gee, thanks, Sly. I get to compete with you.
He outslide you,
He
right?
did. He did. He's going to draw a bigger audience right from the get go, too.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he had the gospel roots too that he was always able to sort of call upon. He was also identified early on as a musical prodigy. And by the time he
Mhm.
was 7, he'd already become prominent on the keyboards. I mentioned, the multi instruments that he played as a multi instrumentalist too at the same time. But he just really was able to capture things early on. And while still in high school, he settled primarily on the guitar and joined a number of high school bands too, which a lot of people do. It sort of makes their way through all of it. And he included, when he was the DJ also at KSOL, performers such as the Beatles, the Rolling Stones on his playlists. And then he worked as a staff record producer too,
Yeah.
as we mentioned. And it's just really cool stuff when you think about all of this. And he just, it's a certain time period, a certain sound. And when you put that music on, especially like Family Affair, all these songs, you just feel really good. It takes you back. And I think there's a hunger these days for things that make people feel good. Music, television, film, all kinds of different stage performances, things that make people feel better about life because of all the crazy world things that are happening around us. You put on some Sly Stone and the Family Stone, and all of a sudden, you know things get funky, but a different kind of funky, not as funky as they are in real life today. It really makes you feel good, and it's so great that he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland too. That was so well deserved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then I question his validity. And yeah, and like you said, with the I encourage people to even, because I love origins. I love origin stories. That's what, writing about the mamas and the papas. And right now I'm writing a book on Waylon Jennings and telling his origin story, and it's just a lot of fun. And I encourage people to go back and that KSOL air check from '67. It's all over YouTube. To just listen to that, and you can hear Sly's personality in there. He's just so fun with the records, and even to check out some of his early work. Sly doing doo-wop, and I love doo-wop music. It's so close to me, and he just does. He just knocks it out of the park, and I can see why he was able to excel, because even at such a young age, he just is carving out these enduring melodies, and he could have thrived in any music form or any art form that he chose. And thank goodness for all of us he chose music, because it's going to be around forever, and we all benefit from it.
Absolutely right. And do you think, in the later years, he really understood and appreciated how people felt about him? He felt the love that was thrown his way for the music, for his extraordinary gifted talent and talents that he shared with all of us. You think he understood it and appreciated it? And he was obviously in the later years not so much in the public eye,
Right.
but I would hope that he felt the love that everybody felt for him.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't. I know Sly, he liked to put on that kind of kooky air, but I think deep down he knew what was going on, and he knew his legacy, and I'm sure any artist with his longevity, there's gotta be appreciation for the fans and love for the fans, because without them you don't have it. You're nothing, and that applies to anybody that has any base that has a fanship in sports and entertainment, even in politics, things like that. You got to really appreciate the people, because and I think he did. I think I see that picture of him. He looks pretty content, and pretty happy in his later years. So I don't know if he did. I can't speak for him, but I like to think he did.
Exactly right. You know, it's almost like he's saying, you know what? I hope I made you happy. I did my best. I gave it the best shot possible. Went through a lot of different things in life, but, you know, was really popping here. And now just kicking back and enjoying, you know, life to the best of my ability. And I hope I left you with something beautiful. And he did. With the archives and body of work is extraordinary. Where do you feel he rates in the music annals of music history?
Well, there's a lot of competition, you know, but I would definitely put him in the top 25 somewhere. You know, he wasn't overall not as prolific as even say like a Brian Wilson or Paul McCartney, but you know, he's for sure. His name will always be remembered. You know, it's just that's the body of work isn't huge, but it's endearing and it's impactful and it's unique. You know, nobody did it exactly the way Sly Stone did it, and I don't think that anybody could.
Somebody else who obviously, you know, you talk about the impact and somebody who was a groundbreaker and innovator was who we just lost as well, Brian Wilson. Of course, founder of the Beach Boys. Really, a lot of people also feeling this loss. Born Brian Douglas Wilson in 1942, he passed. Also, just 2 days apart, Sly Stone and then Brian Wilson, American musician, songwriter, record producer, co-founder of the Beach Boys, received widespread recognition as one of the most influential and innovative, significant musical figures of the 20th century. And his work was distinguished for its high production values, complex harmonies, orchestrations, vocal layering, and the introspective or ingenious themes, also known as versatile head voice and falsetto as well. Brian Wilson, of course, there's Then and Now, another iconic figure in the music industry as well. And people felt so close to Brian.
Hmm.
And of course, the other musical genius, Carney Wilson, of course, which we know from Wilson Phillips and so much more, being daughter. Great loss for Carney. We love Carney as well. Taking a look at the amount of music that the Beach Boys put out with Brian and company, it really is extraordinary. One of my dear friends was the incomparable Ronnie Spector from the Ronettes.
Right.
And they were friends for a long time and did things together as well. Ronnie, they're all in heaven now, Ronnie and Brian. Tell us about your thoughts and memories and contributions with Brian.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Ronnie Spector because Brian Wilson was obsessed with the song "Be My Baby," which was a big hit for the Ronettes.
He
I mean,
was.
that song just was in his mind constantly. And the one thing I noted was uh, how appropriate that these two rock music icons or pop music icons, whatever you want to say, Brian Wilson and Sly Stone, both from California, two Californians, both grew up singing in their families, both started family bands, die within 2 days of each other. I thought that was pretty significant. But Brian, he created a sound like the sound of summer is like he created the sound of summer like when you're at the beach. I mean, you hear all you have is, you know, I have, as soon as I get to the beach I got like, you know, I just got the Beach Boys like Help Me Rhonda in my head. It's just it's the sounds of summer that's been just duplicated. I remember watching SpongeBob SquarePants with my kids years ago, and it was it took place at a scene. They lived underwater, but they were at the beach, and there's all these Beach Boys style songs, you know, but coming from it. So that just shows you the influence and how just cross generational influence of a guy like Brian Wilson. I mean, he was like Mozart or Bach or Beethoven. He just created these incredible symphonies. Just a musical genius. Could see the music floating in the air, you know, and I don't know if that's, you know, it's something profound or crazy or a little mix of both. But you know, beginning in the early '60s with all the surfing and the hot rod hits, and just transforming that into a more sophisticated sound when the Beatles arrived and got involved in competition with them, where all the fans just benefited. I mean, their competition gave us Rubber Soul, Pet Sounds, Revolver, the Beach Boys today, Summer Days and Summer Nights, and then Sergeant Pepper, and even Smile, which was released, should have been released prior to Sergeant Pepper, but got shelved. Had that been released in its time, we might be venerating that more than Pet Sounds. But Brian Wilson was just a tour de force, and he even he did pull away beginning in the late '60s. He had his mental issues as well and had a breakdown, and but he was still involved for a long time. He did eventually overcome him at some point in the '70s, but he always found a way to be involved. And the guys, the Beach Boys, which consisted of two brothers, Carl and Dennis, his cousin Mike Love, and a childhood friend Al Jardine. They couldn't be any more closer. They always had him in mind, and I think he shaped them as well.
You're so right too, and the uniqueness of the sound. Sometimes there are singers and there are groups or orchestras as well, bands, where they have such a distinctive sound. There's nothing else that really mimics it. Some things may come close, cover bands, whatever, but there was a distinctive, unique flavor. Like you said, you think of the beach. There's certain things you think of when a Beach Boys song comes on that brings back these memories, these warm memories, these good times, positivity, things of that nature. And the sound that was created with him being a co-founder, creating that sound, really stood out. There wasn't anything really like it at the time, kind of like Sly Stone creating this amazing sound with funk and everything else.
Yeah.
The Beach Boys and Brian created a unique sound that really stood out as well, right?
Yeah, it was totally Brian, and it carried in over on his solo career too, which I'm so glad that Brian had so many struggles, in his life with drugs and the effects of that on his brain. And he really, in the '80s, he was almost completely crippled. He got involved with this guy, Dr. Eugene Landy, who just really controlled him and took over his life, separated him from his family, and they finally broke him free of that. And in the '90s, restarted his career. Pretty much left the Beach Boys. He kind of had handed that over to Mike Love. Mike kind of became pretty proprietary over that band, and I can understand why. But it's not the Beach Boys without Brian Wilson in my mind. But he relaunched his solo career, and thank goodness he did, because he gave us, we got at least 15 years out of him, and just a bunch of great albums. Even his he released Smile at first as a solo artist, and then they eventually put out the Beach Boys version of it in the like 2015 or 2016, and but he had put it out as the way it should have come out complete, and it was just it's a treasure to behold. And it was just, so Beach Boys fans were so happy. I mean, they were happier when the Beach Boys version came out, because you want to hear the original. But and that sound even carried through over to he just couldn't help it. I mean, it's like it's like Bruce Springsteen or Neil Young or anybody like that has this your sound is like your fingerprint. It can't change and can't be duplicated, and it's uniquely yours. And when he started making records again, it's like the Beach Boys were back, even though Mike Love and Bruce Johnston. And I'll tell you, I've never seen the Beach Boys live, but I've seen Brian Wilson live, and it was one of my favorite concerts. I got to see him live about 10 years ago, and it was just, he came right out with Heroes and Villains, and just didn't let off the gas. It was great.
Actor John Stamos was very, very close to Brian and the Beach Boys, as well as a drummer too, that he was on the side. John Stamos, as much as an actor on so many great hit shows. There was a real loss felt for somebody like John Stamos as well.
Yeah, he's been involved with the Beach Boys for a long, long time, since the late '80s, when he was acting on Full House. And Yeah, he was a musician as well. I remember hearing him on Howard Stern years ago, and he was telling the story of how that all came together, and it's pretty interesting. And somehow he ended up in a room teaching Jimmy Page how to play a guitar part, that's pretty interesting. If you're John Stamos and you're teaching Jimmy Page how to play a part on a guitar, that says how good of a musician John Stamos is. But it's I remember seeing them on Full House, an episode with the Beach Boys on there, and he kind of took over the role of Dennis. Dennis had been gone; he died in 1983, had been gone for the better part of 10 years, and I think John Stamos really took on that role. He would sing "Forever" and a couple other Dennis songs in concert, and really ingratiated himself with not only the group but the fan base.
Exactly right. And once you do that, they're very loyal. The super fans of the Beach Boys and
Hmm.
Brian and everybody, they're super loyal. Brian had a couple of formative influences too early on in his life. He had said George Gershwin was an influence, and the Four Freshmen, Phil Spector, who we mentioned, Ronnie Spector, of course, was at that time married and they divorced. Burt Bacharach too. What a variety! Four Freshmen, Phil Spector, Burt Bacharach, George Gershwin, all influences for Brian over the years.
Yeah, and when you listen to, especially to those early Beach Boys recordings, I mean, it's basically a Four Freshmen impersonation. I mean, I have some Four Freshmen in my collection as well. I really love them, and they did "Their Hearts Were Full of Spring." I remember the first time I was like, "This is a Beach Boys song," But uh, they were. I forget the guy who had the high tenor, but he was really influential to Brian in that sound, and even John Phillips. He was. Of the Mamas and the Papas, he was influenced by them in the high lows, and I made note in my book that how interesting it was. Two guys who really controlled the kind of the folk rocky sounds of the mid '60s, Brian Wilson and uh, and John Phillips, had really just put their influences of vocal harmony, white vocal harmony from the early to mid '50s into rock and roll, and that's what we got. It really is fascinating how uh, people with a creative musical mind can just take something like that and make it contemporary and really make it jump off the page.
Exactly right. And sometimes the funds are limited in the early days, and you are
Mhm.
doing what you can, putting it all together. In '61, we talked about he began the actual professional career as a member of the Beach Boys, band's songwriter, producer, co-lead, vocalist, bassist, keyboardist, and de facto leader. And then this is an interesting fact for people who don't know. After signing with Capitol back in 1962, he became the first pop musician credited for writing, arranging, producing, and performing his own material. So again, a trendsetter there as well, getting that recognition and getting the credit, which oftentimes doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and that's pretty standard now. I mean, now it seems like it just seems to be over credited. But it is interesting that he did that, and people like us who we like to see that. You go on a record, you like to see who arranged this, because you're fans of certain arrangers, like for instance Jack Nitzsche, who was Phil Spector's main arranger. If I see his name on a record, I'm like, oh, I got to listen to this because Jack was great. But yeah, they it's funny, they started off. The story goes, I know they were home and their parents had taken a weekend trip. Murray Wilson and his wife Audrey, and they left the boys some money, and I think they took that money that was meant for food and rented some instruments, and they went down to the studio that Hype Morgan ran nearby and recorded "Surfin'," which became the first release on that. I guess it's the X label, but which is a collector's item now. If you have that, you got a nice treasure in your hands. But I don't know how many copies are out there floating. But it's amazing that it reminds me of Berry Gordy of Motown. Borrowing $800 from his family to start Motown, and I think he sold it in 1986 for like $60 million. So that's a pretty good return on investment. And I think that money that Brian Wilson's parents gave him for food was a pretty good investment in his career. And not only that, but there are two other sons and their nephew.
Exactly right. A tremendous investment that certainly paid off. And I imagine they were probably really proud and, just celebrated. And of course, they got the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was something very, very special too, and came together for that. Boom. There we go. The Beach
Yep.
Boys. Really cool moments there as well. And some other things too about Brian that people may or may not know, some little tidbits and facts. Of course, the music that he also produced acts such as the Honeys and American Spring. But by the 60s, he had written or co-written more than 24 U.S. top 40 hits, including number ones, Surf City, like you mentioned, back in 1963. I Get Around. I mean, you just have to say the title of these songs and you hear the song in your head. I Get Around. 64, Help Me Rhonda. Good Vibrations. Help Me Rhonda was all the way back in 65. Good Vibrations in 66. And he is considered the first rock producer to apply the studio as an instrument, one of the first music producers, auteurs, which is amazing as well. And as we know, of course, he did have a nervous breakdown and he did withdraw a little bit. And I can imagine, when you're in these industries where you're constantly pumping out content and there's all the pressures of it and topping what you did last and so many things, it can lead to moments where time needs to be about you and you need to have a bit of a rest, right?
Yeah, and I know that Brian had a bit of a fragile psyche. He had a tough childhood. His dad, Murray, was pretty abusive, physically, but probably more so mentally. And it really affected Brian, and it affected the others in other ways. Dennis became very self-destructive. Carl seemed to be the most grounded of all of them. He was the middle child. But he also smoked like a chimney, and it eventually gave him lung cancer and cost him his life. So when you have that, and I can't speak for, I don't know Sly Stone's situation. I know I don't know about his family life, but he started, he sang with his family as well, and but when you have a fragile psyche like Brian, and you get to that level that he did of fame and notoriety, not only with outside the industry, but within the industry. I imagine it just takes a toll. It's just a matter of time before you're going to have that. And, I'm just grateful that eventually he got surrounded by the right people. And his second wife, Melinda, really took good care of him. And, she died really kind of suddenly, but not, a couple of years before he did. And, I think when everybody saw that, we just knew it was just a matter of time before Brian's time. But I think he probably shocked a lot of people by living as long as he did, especially considering what he'd been through.
That's just exactly right. Every once in a while, we would hear various things on the news or reports about things that happened with him. But boy, the body of work too, when you think about it, extraordinary. And just to have the opportunity to, again, hear all of this, it really makes you feel good when you think about what was left. He contributed to really the development of many music genres and movements, including, as we're talking about here, the California sound, art pop, psychedelia, as well as chamber pop, progressive music, punk, outsider, and sunshine pop as well. And many say since the 1980s, his influence has extended to styles such as post-punk, indie rock, dream pop, chill wave, and so much more. And he also received numerous awards, of course, and acclaim over the years, rightfully so and well-deserved, including 2 Grammy Awards, Kennedy Center honors as well as nominations for a Golden Globe Award and Primetime Emmy Award. and also, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2000. And his life and career was dramatized in a 2014 biopic, Love and Mercy. Did you get a chance to see?
I did. Yeah, actually, that was an appointment viewing for me. I remember it came out, and it didn't get mass distribution. It was just a small independent film. John Cusack starred as young Brian, and Paul something or other, I can't remember the actor's name, starred as young Brian. And it was a neat dichotomy of just jumping back and forth from young Brian around the time he's creating Pet Sounds, and all the stuff, all the pressures that we were just talking about, really starting to mount up on him, and how it was starting to break him mentally. And then older Brian in the mid '80s, under the control of the nefarious Dr. Eugene Landy, and the meeting of Melinda Ledbetter, who would eventually become his second wife, and how she helped him break free of that. And it was a really interesting study. I thought the movie was really well done. It's a shame that it didn't get bigger distribution. I had to go to a tiny little theater in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, with my wife when we saw that. But it was a lot of fun. I thought they did a really, really good job of recreating the eras. Neither of the actors really looked like Brian. But they had the essence of Brian down pretty well. I thought John Cusack did a really incredible job with that, and I would put it up there as a great biopic. Really, and I'm not a fan of too many biopics, because just a lot of stuff just gets compressed, and stuff gets just thrown away, or they make the story completely up, like the Buddy Holly story. And it's not even close to the original, but the actual story. But I thought they did a really good job of that in the Bob Dylan movie that came out recently. There were a few Hollywood moments to that, some compression of events in his life. But if more biopics were done like those, I would probably enjoy them more.
Right. I know. Sometimes remakes too, when people remake movies, remake TV shows, it doesn't always, like there was two versions of The Out of Towners with Sandy Dennis and Jack Lemmon, the original one from 69-70, and then the later one with Goldie Hawn and I think Steve Martin. And just the personality and the way that Sandy Dennis was, and Jack Lemmon, with their personalities and their ability to capture the essence of those characters, visiting New York for a job, interview, coming from Twin Oaks, Ohio, the Kellermans. I prefer the first one. I prefer the Jack Lemmon, Sandy Dennis version. Plus the time period of New York that they captured too, similar to those time periods we're talking about. And the camera angles and the Quincy Jones soundtrack, and just all of it so perfect.
Yeah, and the relationships between husbands and wives were different in the 60s than they were like in the 80s and beyond. It's just, and they're always different, the nature, and they're always the same, but they're always different, it's nice to see a version where it kind of captures the magic of a certain year, and it fits it really well. And I understand they're making a new Naked Gun movie. I'm kind of on the fence about that, because I love those originals, and just like without Leslie Nielsen. But I was like, well, if it's the Zucker brothers, though, I mean, if they're behind it, which I don't know if they are, it's gonna be funny, So we'll see.
We'll see. Right. Exactly. Something else that folks might not know, that Brian Wilson played quarterback for Hawthorne High School's football team when he was a kid. He played American Legion baseball as well, and he ran cross country in his senior year. And around 15, he briefly worked part-time sweeping the floors at a jewelry store. That was his only paid employment before his success in music. He also cleaned his father's machine company, Abel, on the weekends, and he auditioned to sing for the original sound recording company's inaugural record release, but he was deemed too young. But for his 16th birthday, he received a portable 2-track Wallensack tape recorder, allowing him to experiment with recording songs, group vocals, and rudimentary production techniques. And he involved his friends around the piano and would frequently harmonize with those from his senior class in those recordings as well. So he knew early on, as he's listening to Bach and Beethoven and others, he was already on his path as he was sweeping floors and doing other things, playing sports. Music was deep in his heart.
Yeah, and I have to think that 2-track, he probably asked for that. I can't imagine his mom and dad at a department store saying, "Oh, yeah, I think Brian might like this 2-track." But yeah, all the great ones, it seems to me there's no plan B. It's like you go in and you know it. You say the same thing. You can say that about Van Morrison. You say about Bruce Springsteen, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney. There were no plan Bs. They were going to go into this and either swim or sink. And there's probably more stories of people who have done that and sank, but the ones who do swim, we certainly know them. And I think Van Morrison was like a chimney sweep. I think he cleaned windows, and I don't think Bruce Springsteen ever had a job. So at least Brian seemed to have a little bit of a leg up. And it's hard to, you mentioned him being an athlete, and it's so weird to think when you look at Brian, he doesn't come across as very athletic, but he was. I've seen pictures of him. They used to, I think the Beach Boys had like an annual softball or baseball game they used to play. And I remember seeing a picture of him in 1969, and he's at bat, and he has got a stance, and it looks like he's getting ready to swing with authority. So I think is for all the issues that he may have had mentally and with his breakdowns and stuff. I think once he got a ball in his hand and a glove or a helmet on, I think a different Brian Wilson came out.
Exactly. Did you play any sports over the years, Scott?
I did. I was a baseball player, and growing up, we always played football. Basketball, I was never good at because my legs are too short, and I struggle shooting the deep ball. Really got to use my legs to do it. But my son is a big basketball player. He likes to. He doesn't play, formally or with anybody, but he loves to shoot baskets, and he and I always do that together. But baseball was my sport. I loved playing it. But baseball was my favorite sport to play, but football is the sport that I love to watch the most.
There's a jersey on the wall to the left of you, it looks like, too.
Yeah, that I went to the University of Alabama, and I am a proud graduate. And the Crimson Tide, that is my team. That's a autographed jersey of Sean Alexander I got because my roommate's brother was an offensive lineman, and he got arrested, and I helped him get bailed out. And in exchange, he got me this autographed Sean Alexander jersey, who was the star of the program when I was there.
Very, very cool piece of memorabilia to have there on that wall there in your office.
Yeah.
Of course, you celebrated a lot of the musical greats. That's why to have you on the show talking about, as a music historian and celebrated author, talking about Sly Stone and Brian Wilson. When you were on last time, we were celebrating the Mamas and the Papas, and with your fabulous book, All the Leaves Are Brown, which we continue to recommend to people. And I have it. You generously sent one to me, and I have it. And it is really, really fantastic. Whether you had a chance to meet Peter, Paul, and Mary, or you had the chance to have an opportunity to read this book, or any of the folks, of course, in this case, the Mamas and the Papas, these are all iconic names and groups and people who really were trendsetters of that time. And the Mamas and the Papas, which you celebrate in the book, they really were something special, weren't they?
Yeah, they really were. They captured lightning in a bottle, and the one reason why I wrote the book about them was because there really wasn't much out there on them, at least, or anything that I felt was worthy of their story. The books were really thin, and when I started, there hadn't been anything written about them in the 21st century, right? That's what we're in. So
these days, I have no idea what even the day and time is. Do you? Since the pandemic and everything else and all the other craziness going on, what today? What's that? Sometimes it's better not to ask.
2019 was how long ago?
Yeah.
So it was, and it a bit of a, I'm a big fan of that era of music, and 50s and 60s, and it was really kind of my love letter to that era. I was born in '76, so I was nowhere close to it, but I've always loved it and studied it since I was a kid, and it's an incredible story. So I kind of use the Mamas and the Papas to tell the story of the music industry in the '50s and the '60s up to the early '70s, and they played a big part in all that. They rode through a lot of trends. And broke a few of their own. So and obviously with the Monterey Pop Festival too, which we just celebrated the anniversary of. Um, just to tell that story, give it the treatment that I felt it deserved, because I don't think it did. And I think if you're a fan of the group, you're going to love it. If you're a fan of just that period of music, I think you'll enjoy the book. I think it'll give you a lot of things you didn't know.
What are some things what would be like maybe one or two things that you uncovered that were fascinating even to you?
Well, just and I knew about it going in, but the ultimate dysfunction of that group, just how they really almost sabotaged themselves before they started. There was so much, uh, there were love triangles and unrequited love, and just between all of the members, it was just one big giant mess. And a couple other things is just the Monterey Pop Festival, how it was John Phillips's brainchild. I mean, he didn't conceive of it, but the idea was brought to him, and he really commandeered it. And really, it was through his vision that it became the thing that we know of it today, and look back on. Um, and it's the granddaddy of all rock festivals, and it wouldn't be like that had he not been involved. And he was the main guy in that. Him and Lou Adler.
Mm, absolutely. Did you ever get a chance to meet any of the members of the Mamas and Papas? Obviously not Cass; she was already gone, Cass Elliott, but Mama Cass. But any of the others over the years?
No, I never have. I mean, I'm over here on the East Coast, and all of them were out in Los Angeles. So, and even before, I mean, I think John Phillips died when I was just coming out of college. And Denny. I remember when Denny died, I was working, or I was getting ready to work at Sirius XM or something like that. It was just a little bit before I even got into the entertainment industry. So Michelle's the only one who's still alive, and I have yet to meet her. She's holed up there somewhere in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. I got to meet her actually at an event, gala event in Connecticut.
Nice.
And she was just delightful, really, really pleasant, funny, warm, nice. This, of course, for everybody, this is Michelle Phillips from the Moms and the Papas and much more. She was a real sparkle and array of energy. When she walked in the room, everybody, they lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, she's got it. That's for sure. When I started writing the book, I wasn't under contract to anybody. I didn't have an agent, and I just started writing it. I was like, let me just write it. I just want to write a book, So, and I reached out to a lot of people, and a lot of people I heard back from, but Michelle and Lou Adler. I mean, with my circumstances, that was just almost impossible to try. But I tried. I did try to get them. I should have reached out to you, Jim.
See, right? You never know. we met just after that, but still really cool. And again, if folks want to have an opportunity to go back in time a little bit and just learn a little bit more, All the Leaves Are Brown is really, really fantastic. What are some other things that you're working on, my friend?
Well, I'm writing for The Strange Brew. I put out an article about once a month. And just dropped my new one this week. It was on Smokey Robinson. 1972, July 1972 was the anniversary of him performing his last ever concert with the Miracles. So I take the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, and then I look back at how Smokey helped shape the sound of Motown in its classic Detroit era, which is the era that everybody remembers. That's just so easily identifiable as a Motown song. I've written articles on Van Morrison, Jerry Butler and Curtis Mayfield, Waylon Jennings, who I'm in the middle of writing an a biography of right now. That's really focusing on his the first part of his career. He, broke in '74, but he had been recording since 1959. So that's a lot of time in between. And I analyze all that time and how his career developed, starting with being Buddy Holly's protege and being his bass player on the tour that ultimately cost his life, and how Waylon gave up his seat for the Big Bopper, and how he had to just kind of reinvent himself when he started off so promisingly, going to be Buddy Holly's protege, be the first artist on his record label, and it just kind of all came crashing down with that plane. And how he was able to rise from the ashes of that, and became an RCA Victor country recording artist in 1965, and really dealt with the struggles of the Nashville studio system, which led to him just kind of rebelling and starting the outlaw country movement of the 1970s with Willie Nelson. And along the way, you get to meet Willie and Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and all these people that helped shape the man that he became.
How did you get started in the world of writing and focusing on entertainment the way you have so eloquently and beautifully?
Well, I appreciate that. I started off back in 2015. I'm still working for the Catholic channel on Sirius XM, but at the time the Pope was getting ready to come visit the United States, Pope Francis, and it was his first ever trip. And Sirius XM really got behind it. And my program director at the time, she wanted me to write a documentary on his life, and because she knew that I liked history and telling good stories and yarns and things like that. So she tasked me with that, and we released a two-parter right before he landed. And after that, I wrote several more. Did one on Mother Teresa, did one on Pope Benedict, finished one recently on Pope Francis with a third part that dealt exclusively with his papacy. So I really enjoyed the research and interview process, and I love music, love writing about it. And I thought, hey, I would like to try writing a book. If I can do this, I can write a book, and got to writing it, and eventually sold it to Backbeat Books, and here we are.
I think when and if the pearly gates are in front of you and the maker is there taking a look at the accomplishments and the things you've done, when he brings up the topic of, were you the one who wrote the books on the popes and Mother Teresa? I love them. You're in. Come on in.
Yeah, but I also wrote about the mamas and the papas.
Well, there is always purgatory. However,
gotta have a balance, right?
I think you'll still, Mother Teresa. I think you're in.
Yeah, right. I got a good advocate up there.
What is it like writing about those kinds of figures? Because their lives are so inspiring and so in depth.
It's so fun. It's especially when you learn something new. And it's funny because everybody's always asking me, well, what did you learn when you write? And you even asked me here, what did you? And it's like, geez, I got to struggle. I got to remember, because you're learning so much new stuff. But uncovering something new, or putting pieces together, or talking, finding somebody, like I found. Writing this Waylon book, I found Byron Metcalf, who played drums on Waylon's first session for A&M Records back in 1963. It was the first big label that he recorded for, and by big label, I'm saying A&M, which everybody knows. But back in those days, A&M was just starting out. Nobody knew Herb Albert and Jerry Moss from a hole in the wall. So, but they signed Waylon Jennings, and he was a local drummer, and he played not only with Waylon there, but he also played with him in some clubs in Phoenix around that time, because that's where Waylon was based in the early to mid '60s. So, it just talking to people who played with him on sessions, people who knew him growing up, the people are running out, like we said earlier, but they're still there, and you still got to look, and some of them will surprise you.
Exactly right. Now, are you finding the subject matter, or are you being commissioned or requested to write about some of these figures?
Oh, I find it. It's this was something that I've been a Waylon Jennings fan since the late '80s. You probably even before that, when I was a kid, the Dukes of Hazzard, was a big show, and he sang the theme to that. So this is a story I've been wanting to tell for a long, long time. I really got into him when I was in high school, especially those early years, those pre-outlaw years, which I think are fascinating. People don't know enough about this. That's what led me to really want to write about it, because there's more to his story than just, the outlaw from the '70s and the '80s. There's a big chunk of story missing, and I really want to fill in that void.
And that's terrific. Also writing about folks while they're still here, too. Oftentimes they always say a lot of times lifetime achievement awards or that elusive Emmy or what have you that the person
Yeah.
never got when they were here. To write about folks when they are present is fantastic as well. Do you see a difference just in terms of is there a weight that you place on yourself to get the story right, especially when they're no longer here to participate in it, versus being here where they will read it and probably hear about the book? What is that all like for you, writing about somebody who's with us still, and or writing about folks who've passed away?
It is, people who are here, not even necessarily the people like three-fourths of the mamas and the papas were gone when I was writing about it, but there's still family members. There's still Mackenzie Phillips, um, who talked about her own struggles and her own relationship with her father, which is, sounds pretty horrific. So, you really want to be a good storyteller, but you also want to be honest and true to the story, and give your takes here and there. You don't want that to, some writers can do that too much. So you want to find a good balance, and just be honest. An honest assessment is always preferable to somebody's, opinion. But it because there are people that are close, that are or were close to these people, that are going to read it, and you don't, yeah, I don't want to upset them with things that aren't necessarily true,
Exactly right. Yeah.
or hard to
So,
prove.
or hard to, what sometimes people do, or to tell all, or something, comes along and they mention all these names. didn't sh- didn't Shelley Winters write something like that, where
Oh yeah,
every
I remember
man
my
she
mom reading
ever
that book.
yeah, I'm sure everybody's mom and grandmother probably grabbed it. All the men that she had some flirtation and involvement with.
A little bit more than that, I think.
I know, finessing the words. Yeah,
I,
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. That's exactly romantic interludes with
Interludes. There you go. Yeah,
interludes. That's right. That's
yeah.
a good
Rendezvous.
rendezvous with lots of them, which is amazing. She was an interesting character.
Yeah, she was.
Have there been books written on her? I haven't read one on her. I know hers, but by others.
I can't imagine lately. I mean, I can't imagine too many people really are aware of her. She was kind of a product. I mean, she was a name, but she wasn't like a big name, like Doris Day or Marilyn
Yeah,
Monroe or something like that.
yeah.
Although I'm sure there are people out there who disagree with me on that.
Seeing her in Poseidon Adventure and all
Right.
these movies, and right, isn't that quite amazing too? How quickly things move. Like there are people now who never heard of Jackie Gleason, or any of these
Yeah.
kinds of names. Don't even bring up William Demarest. I mean, and Ernie Kovacs. No way.
Right, yeah, yeah, right, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many people. Well, but and again, it's just it's what you choose to know. Like I always kind of made my business to know history, whether and I'm sure there's probably lots of things that I'm not aware of, but I have a pretty good grasp. If somebody who was once really famous from a long time ago's name is brought up, I can pretty much identify kind of who they were, for the most part.
Exactly right. Me too. I always, like everything that's current, but also love the folks who sort of made the
Yeah,
magic
gotta
and
be well-rounded.
paved the way for everybody else. Exactly. Really wonderful having an opportunity to remember the lives and the talent and the contributions of these iconic music figures, Brian Wilson, and of course, Sly Stone, and all of the music that they left, and all of the cool feelings and the vibes and just everything that, will stand the test of time. You can get it, you can download it, you can include it in your, music library. Same with Brian Wilson then and now. They were survivors in their own way, had issues that they had to deal with, pressures, things but they still, to a degree made it through to the best of their ability. And we were the ones with Sly and with Brian, who were the beneficiaries of these incredible talents. They will be missed, right? They will be missed.
Yeah, and I think if you went back to 1975 and told both of them you're going to live another 50 years, they would both have fell down laughing. But they did. They went another 5 decades, and we were all blessed for it.
Exactly. Sounds like you're in a sweet spot. You're enjoying, you're writing away, and you've got some new material coming our way as well, which is exciting, my friend. That is really cool. And again, congratulations for the book that you can get now, folks, if you'd like to jump on this, where books are sold online as well, Amazon, everything, right?
Yeah, you go to my website, scottsheaauthor.com, and they'll take you to all the links where you can purchase it.
It's cool. And it's been critically acclaimed, right? People have really responded beautifully to this book.
Yeah, it was named by Variety as one of the top music books of 2023. So I was really honored that one was included. Just probably about a dozen other books. So I did not see that coming.
That is really cool. So we're talking about Sly Stone and Brian Williams and Brian Wilson. Brian Williams. That's NBC News. Brian Williams. I don't think there's a book on him. There's been articles on him. But
I bet you he could tell some crazy stories, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brian Williams. Not Barry Williams, who was Greg Brady.
Right.
Brian Wilson, of course. Iconic figures, and so great to go back and bring up some tidbits about their life. And thanks for sharing, as the great author you are, music historian, some of the amazing things that you know of them and your appreciation for their contributions as well, Scott. Always a pleasure to have you here on the show. And I hope once again you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you.
Always, Jim. It's always fun to talk with another music lover.
Absolutely. And we'll keep the porch light on for you. Come back to see us again soon. Spread the word continually about our show. And this will be, of course, archived on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. So you can share the link and people can see it again and again and again. And there is the website, folks. Check it out. Everything Scott Shea is right there. Books and all kinds of cool things he's working on. So a pleasure, my friend. Congratulations and everything. And thanks for joining us as we remember these two iconic figures, Sly Stone and Brian Wilson, here on the Jim Master Show. A pleasure, and thanks for being a part of it and remembering with me.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You be well. And is it go Pirates or Phillies for you?
Phillies.
Phillies, Philadelphia. That's it. I know.
Phils.
I was going to say, if you're in the middle, then I guess it's a split for Pittsburgh or Philadelphia.
Yeah, right. No Pittsburgh here.
No Pittsburgh there. You be well, my friend. Thanks for joining us on the Jim Master Show. Always a pleasure, Scott. And we'll chat again soon, okay?
Appreciate it, Jim.
All right, sir. Thanks for joining us. Scott Shea joining us. This is a return visit. Here is the book, Everything Mamas and Papas. It really is terrific. I have the book. He sent it to me the first time he was on, where we really deeply focused on the Mamas and the Papas, and this book as well. Get it where books are sold. And yeah, I got a chance. It was really terrific. I don't know if I ever mentioned it on our series, to meet Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas, and she was wonderful. Really, really, really special. We had a great conversation, and she was just a delightful person. And as we talk about these iconic figures, remembering Sly Stone, the incredible Sly Stone from Sly and the Family Stone, and of course, his sound, his look, his personality, his voice, all the music, truly a prodigy. Will be missed, but fondly remembered. And of course, not only Sly Stone, but Brian Wilson, co-founder of the Beach Boys. So many years, so much music, music that lives on forever, folks. Hey, share your comments, share your thoughts, and share a memory too, of maybe your favorite song from Sly Stone and the Family Stone, and also Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, if you have a favorite, or maybe you got a chance to meet Sly Stone, if you were lucky enough, or even Brian Wilson over the years at an event, or, a book signing or something, because he did, he has his book too, and he wrote a memoir, I Am Brian Wilson, and you can get that, where books are sold. And of course, all the music over the years, Surfing USA and so much more. But share your memories. Leave a comment. Drop a comment below. What is your favorite Beach Boys song? Your song favorites from Sly and the Family Stone. Let us know as well. We love to hear from you. We love to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're doing out there. And thank you for joining us on the Jim Masters Show as well. Again, truly, really a wonderful conversation celebrating two iconic music giants who we just lost recently. And the Jim Masters Show remembers them both, Sly Stone and Brian Wilson. Again, really incredible people. Again, they had a lot of different things they dealt with in their lives, but they sailed through and made it through. And we are the lucky ones. And there is Sly in the later years, Sly Stone, and there is Brian in the later years as well, Brian Wilson. And of course, our very special guest, Scott Shea, music historian, writer, and prolific author. A lot of great projects he's worked on, and much more to come. Waylon Jennings, that sounds like a really exciting one. Did something recently on Wolfman Jack, and also, let's see. Oh, he mentioned the popes and Mother Teresa. He's working on something, Waylon Jennings, too. Very, very cool. I'm Jim Masters, your host. Thank you for joining us as well. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, all right there below. Come see us, follow, and all the rest. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. That is the channel you're watching right now. We love to hear from you. We love when you do connect with us. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Doesn't cost anything. Just click the red or black subscribe button. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you get some fabulous updates from us about things we're doing and upcoming episodes so you don't miss them. Share this episode on your social media and give this episode a thumbs up like. There's a thumbs up icon as well. We love that, and we appreciate that as well. We've celebrated a lot of incredible guests here on our show, one of which who loves our show is Melissa Manchester, another music icon.
Hi, Jim Masters. Melissa Manchester here, wishing you a heartfelt congratulations on the 5th anniversary of the Jim Masters Show. Commander of the Levities, may you have a splendid celebration. Congratulations once again.
Another music icon, Tony Orlando.
Well, Jim Masters, 5-year anniversary. Congratulations. Let me just share this with you, okay? We're living in a podcast time. Hundreds of millions of podcasts. And I've had the opportunity to do many of those. I just want you to know that you made me welcome. You knew what you're talking about. We became friends from the very moment we started our interview, and we'll continue to be friends. I'm so happy for you. 5 strong years, and everybody I speak to, those people who watch the interview on your podcast, and my buddies and friends who have done your podcast, we all agree you're very special. Thank you for thinking of me and always having me part of your podcast. And anytime you ever need me, please call me or want me to be on. It's a privilege to be on your show. God bless you and continued success to one of the best in the industry. God love you, Jim. Congratulations. 5 big ones. Yes, sir.
So kind of Tony Orlando. Melissa Manchester send those words. Also, the incomparable singer, songwriter, musician, Pepe Castro from the Blues Magoos, another iconic, legendary group. He's a dear friend. He wanted to share these wonderful words.
Hey, Mr. Jim, Mr. Masterful, Pepe Castro here, wishing you a wonderful 5th anniversary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blessings, my brother.
Thank you, Pepe Castro. Amazing. George Bunnell from the Strawberry Alarm Clock, another legendary group. Great fan of our show, great friend of our show. He wanted to share this.
Hi, this is George Bunnell of the Strawberry Alarm Clock, and I just want to congratulate Jim Masters on his 5-year anniversary. I had so much fun doing the show. It was just one of the greatest times I've ever had. That's my dog. That's Kiko Mon. He wants to play with his ball, but in a minute, Kiko. Anyway, we had a lot of response from it, for the band and everything, and we really appreciated it. People went on our website, which is strawberryalarmclock.com, shameless plug. And anyway, congratulations again. 5 years is a milestone, and 1,300 plus episodes is really something that's really amazing. Anyway, I had a great time. You're the greatest. Love you a lot. Take care.
The iconic George Bunnell from the Strawberry Alarm Clock. Really appreciate his words. And Roy Hamilton Jr., his father, of course. Roy Hamilton, Unchained Melody and countless hits. He pays homage to his dad. He's a brilliant singer as well. Big fan of our show. We love Roy. And here he is.
Hi, everyone. This is Roy Hamilton Jr. Happy 5th year anniversary, Jim Masters. And congratulations on 1,300 episodes. Totally awesome. My lovely wife and manager, Maria, and I just want to thank you for bringing me on the show. You are a wonderful host and so thoughtful. My father was Roy Hamilton, the golden boy of song, who brought you such hit songs as You'll Never Walk Alone, Unchained Melody, Ebb Tide, Don't Let Go, just to mention a few. We talked about how Maria and I are trying to get our dad inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that we have an online petition where people can sign to help. We are so grateful to everyone who signed. You gave me the opportunity to talk about my career and that I am carrying on my father's legacy. Also, you gave us the opportunity to promote our show, Father's Day, Rock and Roll and Soul Legends Tribute, featuring co-stars Elvis Aaron Presley Jr. and Benedito King. The sold-out show was a great success. Thank you again for having me on the show. Maria and I appreciate your continued support and looking forward to the next time. Love, peace, and blessings to you and all the fans.
Thank you, Roy Hamilton Jr., music royalty, coming from a family of music royalty as well. We thank him, and we thank all of you. We appreciate you being here. This is Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to do the very same for yourself. We hope you enjoyed this episode as we celebrate the life of Sly Stone and Brian Wilson here on The Jim Masters Show. We love you all. Come see us again. Spread the word about our show. It's always great when you're here and you join us at JMS. Be well, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Lots of great stuff coming up. Don't forget, you can binge watch hundreds of other episodes that are right there for the asking. Whatever you do, it's always great to have you with us. Be well and cheers.